place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, February 17th, 2025. I'm actually pretty pleased with myself for knowing what year it is today. And it is episode 1004 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Monday show, which I usually do solo, but something happened. You know what happened today, Dawn?
What?
You showed up at my house.
I just dropped in.
Yeah. Hey, Carrie, welcome to the live stream. If you could do me a favor, folks who are on my social media, let folks know we're going an hour earlier. I thought it would be actually the perfect time to interview Dawn about her experience walking to freedom. And so we're going to talk about that today instead of the small changes we made in the pasture to divert an entire freaking creek, which I will totally do next Monday. It's actually good because I'm traveling this weekend and I was a little stressed about how I was going to get the show notes for next Monday. And I'm like, well, now I can actually go out there and get some photographs too and do some slides so people can see how we remediated that problem, which I think is a pretty darn good learning experience for those of us who live in hills. And if you're in Tennessee, do you live in hills?
Yeah. You're lucky if you don't.
All right. So before we do that, though, I wanted to point out that the Monday mail has changed in format a little bit. I simplified it this morning. If you haven't signed up for our weekly mail, the Monday mail, go to livingfreeintennessee.com to sign up. Or if you are listening to this on the audio podcast, there's a direct link to the sign up form at livingfreeintennessee.com. Second thing I don't usually talk about, you can actually email me feedback to this podcast. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you ever use that? No. Why?
Because I love everything you do.
You did not love my Tuesday show last week.
Well, that was.
We'll talk about that later.
That was different. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you want to send me feedback or questions, send them to Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. I actually have entered a time of email zero goals. Do you know what that is?
No.
You zero out your inbox every day. Like no emails.
Oh, Lord. I have like 21,000 unread emails in my.
Let me show you my Gmail right now. So like my Gmail, which if you guys have my Gmail address, don't use it. 35,000.
Yeah, that's what mine
But that's not
like.
my business email. So, and the reason I have a separate business email is I wanted my domain name. My Gmail is only around because it's been around and it's how I access like old subscriptions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
or you send all your junk mail.
Or like you need to confirm the code with the thing. And I set it up in 1997 or something, or 2002 as the case may be, or 4, or whenever Gmail came out. So that's the only reason I have it. So if you're actually conversing with me on my Gmail, that's it's a pretty good chance I'm not going to see it because it's all spam over there. I do use Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. And when I started this goal of email zero, I had 2,500 emails in my inbox. Look how many are there.
Nice.
304 in 1 week. 1 week.
Whittled it down.
I did. I admitted I was never going to answer any unanswered email in 2024. So Fair. I did cheat. I was like, and I announced it on my show in case people needed to resend me stuff. So yeah. So it's a great time to actually, just got another email, 305. Thanks, Sandy. Thank you. Sandy from the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance sends me an email. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a good time to get those in because I'll actually see them because I'm doing a pretty good job. I think I'll get to actual zero on that inbox, which is my main inbox, in by the end of the week. Especially since I have a flight at the end of this week. So Tactical Redneck's going to hijack my Homestead happenings show and do it solo. And it'll be like 2 days after it snowed. So he's going to be in peak happy mood. Yeah, that's the deal. So yeah, that's the fun part of what's going on. Our featured event of today's show is the Living Free in Tennessee Spring Workshop. Are you excited to go to that?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Why?
I'm excited to be a part of it this year and to get to see, it's like homecoming, like get to see all the same folks and get to hear new topics that maybe I haven't heard before that makes me think of doing something new.
Cool. Because you need more new things.
I need more new things. Yeah.
I think my favorite part is that we get quality time when I'm not frazzled to talk, especially in the evenings. So
it's a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time. So that's over at livingfreeintennessee.com. If you haven't got your tickets, there's just a few left. It's going out on TSP this week, probably. So once it hits Jack's audience, I'm pretty sure those are going to be gone. So if you've been thinking about going, get your deposit in. You have 7 days to change your mind, and I'll refund your deposit. And then it's transferable to anybody, but not refundable. And we've got Alan Booker doing I asked him to do 2 half days. So 2 morning half days. And he's got a bunch of topics that he's going to be doing, from how to just think about permaculture design for your homestead, just from top down. And then he gets into specifics of like strengthening genetics, tapping into local food, and becoming a local food network, all of these things that he's thought about. But he also said, I'm prepared to talk about anything if we get there and the class is like, what we really want to know about is soil pollution remediation, or something that is in my wheelhouse. I'm totally happy to shift focus for one of the sessions. He'll end up doing 4 sessions over his 2 half days. So I think that's going to be a really fun one. Okay, I also want to thank 2 sponsors today. The first sponsor of today's show is John Pugliano of the Wealth Studying Podcast. He's actually put out a lot of episodes recently about how like the impact of Donald Trump coming in on the stock market and the uncertainty of the tariffs and all of that is influencing how he makes investment decisions. So those are really awesome to listen to. Check those out. Go to investablewealth.com and click on podcast, and then you'll see what he has to say about that. Our second sponsor of today's show is very important because we're about to have ice here in Tennessee again. This winter will not quit. Are you over it?
I'm so over it. Normally I relish in the winters just to rest, but I'm like, no.
Did you get any rest this winter?
No. No.
Were you having babies at the coldest days?
Yes.
That's the problem. So were we.
Yeah.
So we're both over the winter, but winter is not done with us. And this is a good time to think about what you would do if you had an electronic pulse come into your house and take out all of your appliances. With an EMP shield device installed, that's not going to happen. It will take out the EMP shield, but you'll save your refrigerator, your TV, your other TV, if you're one of those people, your backup freezers of all your meat, your dishwasher, your electric stove, if you have one of those, computers, stereos, all of those things get protected when EMP shield works as advertised. And if you destroy your EMP shield, you can just replace it for $50 by sending them the destroyed one back. In their factory, they have what they call the Wall of Fame. And it's all these EMP shield devices that got fried. And so the people's stuff didn't. If it fails for some reason, they have a $25,000 insurance policy on that device for you to replace your stuff. And they're the only device on the market I know that does that. Go to empshield.com. Use coupon code LFTN for $50 off. With that, I want to talk about the prepper pantry before we talk about your journey.
Okay.
So we had 2 weeks ahead of us with good weather. And so I took all the freezers out of the prepper pantry. By I mean Tactical and Ryan Steva did this. And they prepared it because the floor was concrete, but like pitted with like dips and divots in it. And so to prepare to make it not level, but flat, so that you weren't like, okay, the freezer's here with a 2x4 under that foot. And like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So he skim coated it. And I was like, great, it can cure. The freezers can stay outside. If 1 or 2 nights it drops below freezing, I can just unplug them for the night, plug them back. It'll be fine. Won't ruin the freezers. And then, as my local weather guy would say, butterflies farted. And so now we're getting like single digits this week.
Yeah, it's back.
So he got the concrete done, and it's dry in most places. There's a couple places where it was a little thicker, where there's still some, like it's dry, but moisture is still coming up. So it looks like a little wet spot. And that's not where you want a really like a 400-pound freezer full of beef, for example, which we have out there. So yesterday I worked with Nighthawk to finish the freezer audit, which I needed to do anyway. I found a chicken from 2020. It's freezer burnt as all get out. It's not being eaten by me, but the livestock gardening dogs are going to love that chicken.
Yes.
Yeah. But I also got from 4 freezers to 3 freezers. I have clear separation between what is Nicole Sauce Industries meat versus household meat.
Nice.
So it's all taken care of and organized. And 3 of those freezers are back inside the prepper pantry. Before I was wanting to like seal the walls, seal the floor, put the paneling up, blah, 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 blah. But nope, nope. Which means we get to move those freezers another time back out to do the work.
That just sounds miserable.
And right now, Dawn has seen it. Under my carport is just a bunch of stuff. Maybe you didn't look very carefully on your way up. Everything that goes in my pantry is out there, unless it's a liquid. Right now, I have like liquids just like shoved in the prepper pantry. And then things like randomly around my house that usually go out there.
I did not even notice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you look behind the Self-Reliance Festival kick trailer, you'll see like shelves full of stuff.
Nice.
Like toilet paper, paper towels, like all the stuff. And I can't find anything because it's not like organized shelves of stuff. It's like, how can we fit the most number of stuff in the smallest amount of space so that we can bring freezers out under there too? So it's like nothing's where it goes. Yeah. So every time I have to find something, I'm irritated about it. But then I'm like, I don't want to just put it back in there organized because then I'm going to have to take it back out and then we're going to seal the floor and we're going to build the shelves for the little bins and all the, So it's been a fun time of transition. I've learned a lot about pantry management that I hadn't really realized before from a storing stuff and keeping track of it in small spaces. So I'm going to update my course. But that's happening and the forecast lied and I'm mad. I'm already mad about more snow coming and now I'm extra mad. Well, the good news is I don't have to be here to suffer through the snow because I'm going out of town to go suffer through the cold in another state. Unfortunately, it'll be cold there too. So I wasn't smart. I didn't like book a flight to Arizona. That would have made more sense.
Florida.
Yeah, don't go yet. That did happen to a friend of ours. I made mayonnaise this week. Do you make mayonnaise?
No. I told you that that's been my epic failure.
Do you want to make mayonnaise after the show?
Yes, I want you to show. I have not been able to successfully make the mayonnaise. Yeah.
Okay.
I do. The little immersion blender.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It has a little whisk and then it has.
I made it with pork fat, like with lard.
What?
Yeah, I melted the lard and I made it with lard and it worked. I will say this: it's a lot firmer of a mayonnaise than most mayonnaise.
How does it taste?
I used it. I'll give you a deviled egg afterwards. I made deviled eggs with the mayonnaise. That's why I did it.
Okay.
So it was 50% lard. I will say I put 50% olive oil in it because I didn't have enough lard ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because I'd seen people do it with bacon grease, and I'm like, well, that's basically lard. So,
right.
Like, there's no reason it wouldn't work. So that worked. And with like doing the carnivore thing that I've been kind of doing, but not staying true to myself so well. I was like, this is how I stay true to myself. I make these deviled eggs with the mayonnaise I make from the fat, or I fail at that. So what it is 2 egg yolks, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, spicy things like pepper, salt, whatever, garlic.
Okay.
I put a tiny bit of mustard in there and then a cup of melted lard and olive oil mixed. And I put it all in one jar with the eggs first and then the lemon and then spices and then the oil. Put the immersion blender in and just went up with it and it just done.
See, that's got to be where it's at. Your hand technique. That's got to be the
thing.
The thing. Yes.
What I was doing wrong, because I hadn't failed mayonnaise in years until some person under listener feedback, like I think it was 2017 or 2018, is like, what do you do? How do you save failed mayonnaise? And I was like, I don't know. I never fail mayonnaise. Like the next 5 mayonnaises I failed. I was like, you make them into salad dressing is what you do. You stop trying to save it and just start turning it into dressing.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then I had used, like, I have a mixer, I have a blender, I had a KitchenAid that's not here. I used all these different ways and it just wasn't working. And I was really irritated because I was like, why did you ask that question? Why did I say those words? And then I got so frustrated, I stopped making mayonnaise at all. And then after that, like finally this year again, I was like, I wonder if I could make it with the stick blender because then it would be easier and less messy and less dishes. And I look online and somebody's like, we just basically put everything into a mason jar, go, and it's done. And I was like,
okay.
Oh yeah, we'll see.
Do you use the whiskey attachment or the other one that has the little blender
blade
part?
The blade. The little blade. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it and
sounds
see
good.
if it works. And I don't know that it is. Have you tried it with the stick blender?
No, I've only tried it with a regular blender.
Yeah. What I noticed, so what I learned about this that I've been doing wrong is I believe that I was over mixing it. Because it's like pour the oil in slowly. I think I was too slow.
Okay.
So anyway, that was what I kind of learned. So that was fun. Okay, next up I have a frugality tip from Margot that I have to read because it's on this piece of paper in front of me. And she wants us to know, now that the Dollar Tree is $1.25, you need to look at what you're buying. Many things are cheaper at other stores, and that is 100% true. Like for the envelopes for the chocolate covered espresso beans that we've been mailing, I ended up buying them at Staples because it was like one envelope for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. And instead I have like 70 cents an envelope into those, right? So absolutely right. Walmart has lots of items under $1. Pool noodles, dental floss, toothpaste are just a few that I've noticed lately. So look around at what you buy at other stores and take notes. Happy savings, y'all.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay, next up and last segment before I get to actually talk to Dawn, other than just to chat with Dawn while we do the morning, the weekly segments, and that is Operation Independence, where we talk about building local ongoing revenue into your life. And two things came to mind. One, code readers. Like owning a code reader for your car is actually worth the investment.
I could see that.
So, and this is something I hadn't really thought about, but for me, so I'm that person who doesn't fix her own car. I don't.
You don't fix your own car?
No.
Yeah, no, me neither.
No, I mean, I can fix some basic things, but I don't and when things go wrong, I don't feel like I have the context to know. Like I can tell if a starter's gone out or whatever, that it's probably that. But when it goes beyond that, or when the warning lights are coming on, I'm like, my default is stop driving the thing and check with an expert to make sure I don't blow up the motor.
Right.
Now, this does go back to having a childhood where the Mazda 626 blew the occasional head gasket, causing my dad to cuss and spend entire weeks in there replacing the head gasket. So he's totally mechanically inclined. So then I didn't realize what a big deal a head gasket was until I had a Subaru where I blew 2 in 2 months. And then I sold that thing.
I would have to.
After fixing it. I was like, I'll fix it and sell it so I never have to look at it again. Earning me the foundational reputation for being a Subaru murderer. So last weekend, guess what I bought?
Let me guess. Mazda.
No. Subaru. Yeah, I just bought a Subaru Forester used. And I took it to the mechanic straight out and had him do a deep go through on it, because when you buy something used, you just don't know. And my mechanic that I have is pretty good. So Jody says, our daughter is in college in Ohio. We're in Vermont. A code reader has been a godsend for her. She's totally able to take care of so many car issues. Yeah, so the code reader tells you what's wrong with the car. And like, they don't cost that much money. I got a blue something that I can't remember what it's called, but it's just Bluetooth to my phone and tells me. And then Tactical has a real code reader.
Oh, really? They have them that Bluetooth to your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, I've only seen the ones that you plug into your dash. You have to like read the little screen.
I can go to Amazon. Like, yeah. So it does you plug in this thing.
Yeah.
And then it's Bluetooth to your phone. So I'd have to, I don't know. I'm not going to look that up on the fly right now. But
I gotcha.
That thing has helped me a lot, because I can see if it's just a stupid, like it's throwing an emissions code that doesn't really matter right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like in the case of the Toyota I bought last year to replace my Chevrolet that got hit, it threw a fuel, like an oil pump error, and that was sort of important.
Yeah, that's not an O2
Yeah, and
sensor.
that was a tow that puppy to the mechanic and get it fixed. And it wasn't a hard fix; it was a valve issue, I believe. But not getting oil to your engine's a problem. So under Operation Independence, investing in some of these things that can help you demystify problems is great. And with the Subaru in my life, like Tactical just ran codes on it because it still has an issue. And the issue I'm pretty sure that it has is emissions related. And I'm pretty sure it was caused by me getting gas and not cranking it tight enough. I'm going to double check with my mechanic because it threw that code plus 2 others. And when they looked at it, they said it threw a code for this part, and I think it was an O2 sensor. And he was like, right. He was like, when I
Who
got
cares?
in there, like I did something and it was fine and it was appeared to be working. So if your check engine light comes on again, let me know and we'll replace that too. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to tell him the codes because it could be caused by me not putting the gas cap on enough. So don't know.
Right.
So that's one thing. And then two, having community meetups like Dawn does every month for the Homesteaders Alliance of Dixon County. And I've started up the quarterly meetings of the CAB Homesteaders Alliance here again, having taken like almost the whole year off last year with all the stuff going on. I was like, screw that. So we had our first meetup and we didn't have very many people come because there were flying monkeys and flooding all over the state. Yeah. It was really bad
Need
weather.
A boat to get here.
Yeah, well, so 2 people came.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not very many people. But one of those 2 people was Ryan Steva, and he brought scion wood, which if anybody needs some, let me know. The other thing he did when I was talking about, because I had a radiator issue with the Subaru, he was like, oh, like the cap sometimes, doesn't close all the way or it's in the unlocked position. I'm like, show me. And then he's like, well, the spray pattern's coming from here. And he just barely touches the hose clamp that attaches the radiator hose to the radiator. And it went in a circle because it was not tightened down. And so I actually avoided certain deaths. So just by tapping into your community, you can save a lot of money on things. Because I was at the point with that car where I was like, I know there's a problem with the coolant system now, and I'm just gonna not run the car. Same thing. Don't want to blow up the motor. And when I looked at it, it was dark, and I was just like, I can't see anything. And Tactical couldn't see anything, and neither one of us we're gonna touch a hot radiator, right?
Right.
So yeah. And then the next day, I was too busy with the meetup. So anyway, those things can really save your bum. Okay, so with that, we're gonna go into our main topic of today's show, which is Dawn. You are the topic.
Hello.
Okay, so I had an interview with somebody last week, which pissed you off.
Set me on fire.
It did. Who did not have a lot of favorable things to say about Dixon.
Yeah, when he first started talking, he was talking about living in Tennessee, and I was thinking, where is he from? Like, where did he live? And he's saying some negative stuff. I'm still wondering kind of where is he talking about? And then when he came out with Dixon, my head exploded. I'm driving in the car and I'm going, what? Which, some of what he said was true, but I've never really focused on it. There's some issues.
And I think when he was talking more about the negative parts than the positive parts of living there.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, that's going to go over well with all my Dixon listeners.
You have a lot of them too.
I know. I was like, how do I redirect this? But at the same time,
it was okay to let him go, actually.
Yeah. So what was valid about his critiques, would you say?
So there are some drug problems. We do have a lot of halfway houses in Dixon. There's like this one company that's just put out a bunch of them, bought a bunch of properties and turned them all into halfway houses. So that is a problem. And that's something our city council's meeting about next week. So that, and there is some issues with not being the healthiest people. When we first moved out there, we went to Walmart. My husband said, I see why you moved me out here. And I said, why? He said, because I'll never cheat on you. Okay. So, but we weren't looking in the right places at first. When you go to Walmart, that's not a good sect of what the entire region or county is. So.
Yeah. Well, and then him not having tapped into the homesteaders there shocked me. Because I was like, and do you know Don Gorham? He's like, no. I'm like, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole movement. So let's go back.
Right.
Because I think you've really been instrumental in connecting the homesteaders in Dixon County, like big time.
So when we first moved to Dixon County in December of 2020, it was during COVID and all that stuff. The first group that I joined online was the Middle Tennessee Homesteaders.
Yeah.
Well, I reached out to the admin of that multiple times because I didn't know anybody. Like I didn't know a soul in Dixon. And I wanted to meet people and I wanted to meet like-minded people. And I knew they had to be there. Like I just knew. And her response was, we're not doing any meetups. You can't meet anybody in person. I was like, well, let me post that I would like to meet somebody at a restaurant, because restaurants were still kind of open. Nope, can't do that. So that kind of infuriated me, because I felt like I had no control and no ability to meet anyone. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll start my own.
I didn't know they'd shut down meetups at the Homesteaders Alliance.
So,
group.
well, it wasn't the Homesteaders Alliance. It was CJ Shepherd
Okay.
that had the Middle Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance,
Right.
or not Homesteaders Alliance. It was
The
Middle Tennessee Homesteaders.
Yeah, Homesteaders of
Middle Tennessee. Yeah. And so that was.
I just didn't know they weren't letting us post meetups then.
Nope. I tried to post it. She would delete it. And then I reached out to her and she was like, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
So that's why in that same year or following year, because that was in December, I got the idea that I was going to start my own group and see if I could meet people. And so I started the Dickson County Homesteaders Alliance group, and it was just a little Facebook page in the beginning. And when I posted the first time that we were going to have a meeting, I was just shocked at the response of how many people were just craving getting back with like-minded people. Like they were tired of being shut in, tired of having to wear the mask, tired of not being able to hug people and, just have human interaction. So that first meeting that we had people all the way down my driveway. Like there was nowhere for anybody to park. So that's kind of how that got started, and it's just grown from there.
Yeah, and that really connected the local food network, I think, where like it was all there, but it wasn't connected. And now it's like, where to get chicken, where to get eggs, where to get microgreens, if that exists there, know where to get baked goods, that's all, where to get raw milk. So, and I think when you start connecting those assets, you also attract people who just want to buy from that.
Right. Yeah.
And then that creates the local economy, which is huge to keeping stability. Let's go back to pre-2020 December, Dawn, though. So at the beginning of 2020, where did you live?
In Nashville.
Okay.
In the
and what was your life like then?
It was very much the typical sports mom, wife, working for General Sessions. I worked for the government, had to leave my house at 6:30, 6:45, didn't get home till 5:30, 5:45, missed all the important stuff in my kids' lives, just working and trying to keep up with everybody else. My husband's an attorney, so he, but we've always just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and never felt like we were really getting anywhere. So that's what I was doing at that time.
Okay. And over the course of that year, you changed. What caused you to change? How did that go? Just tell me about that journey.
Well, leading up to when COVID hit, I had started I started the homesteading when my son was 2. So back in 2009, I guess. But it was just suburb, backyard. I'd turned my backyard into raised beds, and we had grapevines and plums and whatever I could squeeze back there. A couple of chickens, which was actually contraband where I was at. But I gave the neighbors eggs.
So you have a history of pushing back on chicken regulation.
Oh, very much so. Going all the way back. So that's kind of what we did. And leading up to COVID, I kind of told you this earlier. I just felt like something was amiss in the air. I had just had this uneasy feeling. I felt like something was coming. I'm not clairvoyant, so I didn't know what it was. But we started prepping in 2018, 2019. Part of it was because we were listening to you, and I learned a lot of my homesteading stuff from you and from, but then I got led more into the prepping side of it when I started listening to Jack and, reading some of the books and that sort of stuff. So all of that was happening before COVID hit. And when that happened in 2020, I was working in downtown Nashville, and when the riots were going on and they tried to set my courthouse on fire, Yeah, and then had all the spray paint. I thought that kind of stuff could never happen in Nashville. I thought I was insulated just being in Tennessee, and being in what I thought was our small town inside of, a big town kind of thing. That was what flipped the switch in me. And I told my husband, I said, we have got to get out of here. I didn't want to live. And everybody in my neighborhood, which had been previously a great neighborhood for my kids to grow up in, started kind of being busybodies. Wanted to know, like, if you had too many people at your house or too many cars in your driveway, what have you got going on over there? And, that just, and I'm a rule follower if I believe in the rule. I'm not a rule follower just for sake of following rules. And so that really set me off in another, and I'm like, it's none of your freaking business what we're doing.
We are not limiting attendance at Thanksgiving.
We're Catholic. I have 6 children. I mean,
there's going to be cars.
There's going to be cars. Exactly. So that was the catalyst for my mindset change. And then I was at the farmer's market, and this young lady, I was buying my raw milk, and this young lady that was next to my guy that I was buying my milk from, I was telling him, I dream of having my own milk cow. I dream of having a farm. I dream of this and that. And so she called me over when I was done with him and said, I heard you saying that you were interested in buying a farm. And I said, yeah, really, I dream of it. And she said, well, do you want to buy mine? I was like, well, I don't know what you got. and I had never even considered moving to Dixon.
That's how we got sheep. Oh, yeah. You want to buy my sheep?
Yeah, exactly. We had looked, 20, 30 miles out from, not 20, 30 miles. We had looked in Burns, Kingston Springs, some of the closer areas from Nashville. But we had not even remotely considered moving that far out. So we drove out there and looked at it. And I instantly, because I have a very active imagination, I could see all of the things that it could be. And my husband just saw this piece of crap.
Yeah,
I mean, the land is great. The house, not so much. 1970-ish. It still needs a lot of work, and it may need work when I die.
Yeah,
but that's not what we bought it for. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so we'd been on the farm for a little while, and I started dabbling in having a business. I've never been a business person. I've always been, my entire life, I have been an employee. I've never been in management, never been in supervisory positions, because I did not believe that I could do it. I always believed that I was a follower and a good working person, because I really am a good working person, but I never believed that I had it in me to have my own initiative, to be able to drive, to do what I needed to do, and to be in charge of things. So I'd never even strived to be that. But once I got a taste of it, what was your first thing you did? First thing that I did was chickens. Okay. We processed some chickens. We had really good success with them. They got to be 7-8 pounds. Everybody was, I know some people don't like them that big, but I do. I like to cook once and eat several times. So I like them that big.
We all like that.
Yes. Once I got a little taste of that, and I got a little taste of how to market the chickens and how to figure up how much feed I needed for the chickens and, all that kind of stuff, I was like, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And I started really pushing my husband, who had never wanted me to stay home ever. Like, he wanted me to stay where he didn't think we could make it.
Oh, financially.
Mainly because of the insurance, because Metro insurance and the pension and all of the different benefits that
you get a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. That was a lot to walk away from. But I kept listening to you and kept listening to Jack saying, you can do it. If you really want to, you can do it. And so finally, I talked to my husband into to letting me retire. I still get to keep my pension, but I had to defer it until I turned 60. So I won't draw it until then. But I was like, I can do this. And I enticed him just a little bit with, hey, I'll work in your office and help you because you need the help. And I'm free. So I dangled that little carrot in front of him, So we finally made that decision in January of 2022. I retired and worked my last day and then went full time on the farm. And it has not been easy. Having to find insurance was not easy because my husband's not young. And there was a lot of hurdles that we had to overcome. But
what did you do for that? Because one of the things that can be very hard or keep people out of going on out on their own is that health insurance thing, especially if somebody has a health condition.
So my first try was with Farm Bureau, and they approved me and Chase, my son, because we don't have any health issues, but because T had a little bit of high blood pressure in the 140 over 88 to 90 range, they denied him. So when we first started out, Chase and I had Farm Bureau and T had to go through Marketplace.
Okay.
So we were paying 2 insurances, which was like $1,700 a month. And then along the way, I started exploring health shares.
Yeah.
And some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like, but we ended up with Solidarity. And they have monthly premium is fairly reasonable. And we have a $3,000 out-of-pocket maximum, which is also our $3,000 deductible. So once we hit $3,000 for the year, it doesn't matter what it is. They pick up at 100% after that. So I really have liked them. And they pay for functional medicine. They pay for,
nice.
All of that.
I might check them out. I'm in Zion right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it doesn't matter where I am because I don't use it.
I don't either.
So it's like, well, I do use a functional medicine specialist and I do pay him without it going through anything. And that's fine. It's once a year. But it's just, I'm like, but what happens if I get cancer?
Right.
Will they kick in for sure? And having seen a couple of people go through that, I don't know that a health share is any more or less reliable on the budget part as insurance. Because I've seen people go through it with insurance. I've seen people go through it with no insurance.
Right, yeah.
I haven't seen anybody go through it with a health share, and I'm very curious about that story when that comes. Because they have, like, one of the things the health share has, and this is where you need to go in eyes wide open, is if you are required to have a prescription drug because you develop something like type 2 diabetes or whatever, something that's an ongoing thing, they'll cover the first 6 months usually, and then they don't cover it after that.
Oh.
They expect you to kick in to cover your own heart medicine that you need for congestive heart failure if it's going to be an ongoing maintenance thing.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, check that out.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I had a friend go to a health share because it was cheaper without really researching what it was. And every time they had a problem, she's like, well, the health share didn't cover my, strep throat prescription or whatever. And it was because it was below their deductible or they're out of pocket for the year anyway. Plus, like, we're talking about $26 in antibiotics at this point.
Right.
And I'm not sure why that's like a thing right now, but I had always had a high deductible sort of emergency plan before those were made illegal. And so I was always paying for, like, if I had to see a doctor, I just paid the doctor because I never accumulated that much.
We were doing direct primary care for about 18 months too with Mulberry Clinic, but that was $220 a month for family. And Chase and I went for each of us a physical. T never saw them. Oh, he saw them one time. I'm sorry, but he didn't go back for a second year physical. So we ended up paying $2,000 some odd for 3 physicals. So we ended up dropping. As much as I love the concept of direct primary care, it just didn't make sense for us because I don't go to the doctor. Like, I just don't. But they did cover. I mean, they had dermatology and they did all my girl stuff and, checked T's heart and his blood pressure and all that stuff. But again, we had 3 visits. So so it ended up dropping that.
You just have to decide if that makes sense. And I think the thing that is lacking from the medical system is the advisory capacity. Like, I'd like to just make a call.
Yeah.
And say, I have these symptoms. Is it worth worrying about?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And I think, I don't know how you make that happen in a way that it doesn't turn out to just like hypochondria central sort of thing. You know what I mean? And then doctors from a liability standpoint are like, well, I need to see you before I say anything. Wherein my veterinarian I can call from the pasture and be like, these are the symptoms. And she's like, this time of year, it's this 99% of the time. And this is the cure for that. Do you want me to come out for money or do you want to just deal with it yourself?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm like, we kind of need a little bit more of that survival of the
Yes.
fittest element in medicine that we've lost as the liability that doctors take on increases because they're getting sued more and more and more. And they're basically terrified to tell you anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is not helpful. Yeah.
I think the board has way too much power over doctors. They're local medical boards.
It's not every doctor. Like,
no,
I'm working with some doctors who are great when I work with them. And I've done a lot for my health as a result of that from a preventative standpoint, as opposed to treatment standpoint. Mm-hmm. And that's like having a doctor coach instead of having a symptom coach.
That's what I told my functional medicine doctor. I want you to be my partner.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be my boss.
Yeah.
And he liked that.
Okay. So you switched in 2020.
Yes.
How much was that accelerated by all the shutdowns? Do you think that really accelerated your move?
I think so, because I don't like being told what to do. And I was afraid that they were going to mandate us to do things we didn't want to do and take things we didn't want to take. So I started mentally making that shift when all of that started in
2021, I think is when.
Yeah, 2021.
I mean, because
I was still there in January of 2022.
They were foreshadowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd started already having an exit plan so that if that happened, I knew I was going to walk out. I knew I was going to leave anyway. So I started kind of formulating, what do I like? What do I really want to do? And it turns out, of all the things that I do, my home dairy is my favorite.
Did you see that one coming?
I love the milk cows. I didn't. I kind of thought, I like doing the workshops. I like teaching people. I like that in-person stuff. But if I had to boil it down, if I was only allowed to do one thing, my milk cows would be.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel a connection. I love them. They make me happy. I start the morning with them. I get everything. It's peaceful. And it gives me and I think also it's kind of harder to find raw milk. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm filling that void for these families that come and they bring their little kids. And, it's just, I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's really kind of.
I really like helping with the birthing time of the sheep, even though I don't get any sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's exciting.
Yeah. But it's like, but they're super cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I can be there to help, that's fine. And like the funny thing is, like, Tactical is primary on the sheep,
mm-hmm.
but he is not there. He's there for births, but he's not there for births. He's always like, "Hey, Nicole, come over because you have to do the thing."
Just in case, just come on over.
We haven't had to do a lot of assistance, but I had one that I assisted with, only one minor assisted with, that was just a very big animal coming out of a very small hole, and I just held on to its legs while the mom walked away. And it came out.
You were lucky in that.
I was like, I think the head's bending back. I might need to reach in there. And then it came out and I was like, oh, good. I don't have to reach in there. Right.
Yeah.
But, and she's like traditionally done well birthing, and she would have gotten that one out too. But I just wanted to make sure it didn't suffocate in birth or break its neck or something. Cause it looked like and it is, it's a very healthy young thing now. But, I like that part. And I don't, and he doesn't. So
it works.
Yeah. But he has been the surrogate mother for the bottle baby we're supplementing with because the mom's not making enough milk. Yeah. So I call him a step U.
The bonus U.
Yeah, he goes over twice a day, except for every so often. I'm like, I'll take the morning shift. And he's like,
yeah, I'm bottle feeding a calf right now.
Too, yeah, are you down to twice a day?
Yes.
Yes. That's the best. We're at twice a day too. It's 8 and 8 here.
So. It's just kind of whenever I feel like
it.
I don't even.
Yeah.
When I'm done milking in the morning, I'll give her bottle. And then before I go to bed at night, I'll give her another one.
So what do you think it took mentally? Like I think you were very much in the poverty mindset when you first made this transition, but you made it anyway.
I have lived my whole life in the poverty mindset.
How did you get out of it? Like, how did you push through that?
I had to change my mentality from I can't do this, to how can I do this? How can I make this work? What's it going to take? How do I get there? And I had to learn to break it down, like to literally make it manageable steps for me to be able to get from A to B as far as having a business. Because I did still want to have an income. Like I wanted to contribute. I mean, I've always done that. And there was a part of me that just didn't want to give up on having some contribution to the family. And just this month, just January of this month, I've been doing it 2 years now. I finally replaced my full salary from General Sessions. Yeah, it was the first month that and that's after paying for feed and, and all of the stuff. So it's been a journey. It hasn't been easy, but I think just every day I have to ask myself, what do I have to do today to be a little bit better than I was yesterday? And I've had to learn how to do marketing. I've had to learn how to deal with customers. I now have my first 2 employees. And I've never had employees before. So it's all been a learning experience, but it's been probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, other than being a mother and a wife.
Yeah. How's your perspective on having employees versus being an employee?
I think I have been, forgive me for any supervisor that I've ever had that might be watching this, but I have taken the experiences that I have had from supervisors not seeing my value and not giving me positive feedback, just sort of expecting me to do because they say do. And I've tried to because these are 2 young girls. I mean, they're high school kids, but they're still employees, and I treat them like they're employees, but I give them a lot of positive feedback and a lot of encouragement and a lot of, hey, what do you want to do? And try to always encourage them that they're more than just this. Like, so that's sort of the switch that I've tried to make, and what I felt like was done wrong and what I would like to do right.
Yeah,
with them.
Have you discovered any things where, like, boy, it used to annoy me when my bosses did X, and now I totally do it too because I see why you have to do it that way? Has there been anything like that? Or
not yet, but I'm only like a month into it.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't have the experiences under my belt yet. I'm sure those moments will come, though.
Those moments are going to come.
Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see which things you're like, oh, now I see why.
And I will say, though, I did have one supervisor that I have since reached out to tell her, because she was always really hard on me.
Yeah.
She retired 10 years ago, but when she was there, she was really hard on me. But she stayed really close to me, and she did it in a way that I feel like I didn't feel like she was attacking me. Like, I feel like she saw my worth.
Yeah.
And so I've reached out to her and I was like, thank you for pushing me. I now know that I am able to do more than what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I knew you could. I knew you could.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
well,
I have.
A lot of it is so much about attitude. I was in a car with Kerry Brown because he took me to get my car at the mechanic on his way home the other day. And I was like, so my business had a loss last year, not a huge loss, but it was a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I already knew it, but I didn't know like what and where and how much. And I told you, like, we've been redoing all my books.
Right.
And I was like, if this would have been 5 years ago, I would have completely melted down over that. Because, it's like, oh no. But now it's like money is a tool of the business. And while you cannot sustain that sort of activity year over year over year, you can see why and what you did and what needs to change if you look at it very carefully. Wherein the poverty mindset is like, don't look too closely. This is painful. And oh my God, I got to go get a second job sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was like, it's really good that didn't happen in my first 5 years.
I still catch myself doing that, though. I still catch myself sliding back into the, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this, or oh God, I'm never going to be able to do that.
So the post office announced a $15 surcharge on shipping live animals.
Oh, I got that phone call yesterday.
And I saw people saying they're never going to raise chickens again as a result. And
oh my goodness.
I was like, okay, so
for $15?
I was like, hear me out. You're already spending $170 to buy and ship your chicks.
Right.
And you're telling me that you cannot do $185. Like that math no longer works out.
And it's not their fault. It's
And
like,
I understand not liking it. Like I
Right,
am
I
going
get
to
it.
be raising coffee prices because I just saw the spot price of coffee.
Yeah.
And I have to. My green beans have gone up another $2 a pound.
Ouch.
And very suddenly. And it's partially related to crop failure, partially related to, I think it's more like the buzz around tariffs and uncertainty. I don't think it actually needs to be that expensive. So I've been like, well, I'm going to put a pin in it for a second and see, but I actually need to resupply coffee and I'm going to have to buy it at those prices soon. So yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, guys. But, as a result, every other coffee roaster is also going to have to raise their prices. But, there was a time where I would have been like, that's it.
I can't do it.
I can't buy
do
coffee at that much a pound. I'm like, or I'm not going to stock up at that price because I think it's going to come back down, but we're going to do what we need to do. And, people want their coffee. So when you catch yourself doing it, what sort of things trigger it?
Well, I had a moment like that not too long ago when MPS closed because I was getting my milk cow feed from them and it was abrupt.
Yeah, they just shut.
And there's nowhere else that I could get milk cow feed.
Can you get it at Boone Top Farm now?
They do have it, but it's still super expensive. Like it's double the price of what I was paying at MPS. I did have a hookup for a little bit at Tractor Supply. They had an organic milk cow feed that was non-GMO and it had vitamin E and it had all the things in it. So I got that for 2 weeks. And then he was like, well, I can't get that anymore. And I had a pallet on order. And so at that moment, I was like, I can't afford this. I cannot afford to keep going if I'm going to be paying $30 for 50 pounds of feed. I can't do it. But as luck would have it, I just kept digging and digging and digging. And I found a Mennonite Amish fella out 10 miles from MPS that is giving me milk cow feed cheaper than what I was getting it from MPS for. Yeah. And it's the same non-GMO.
Now you're like, did MPS get it from him?
I kind of wonder that. No, I know they didn't because they had all their.
No, they had a whole operation.
Yeah,
you're right.
Stuff,
yeah.
But but at that moment, I was feeling a little defeated. Like I didn't know because if I can't make money, I'm not going to keep going.
Yeah, so that your prices have to go up.
Yeah, and I didn't want to pass that along to people. But I find now I'm more inclined to have my feel sorry for me moment. And then pretty quickly, I start looking for solutions. Whereas before, I would stay in that sorry for me moment for a long time.
Yeah.
And not really care about solutions, or I would come up with reasons why the solutions wouldn't work.
Yeah, or you choose the wrong solution when you're in that mindset.
Yeah.
That's what my show last Monday was about that. It was like, when you're panicked or freaked out.
Or making choices in fear.
Angry.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just making stupid choices usually as a result, which sometimes get out of the way of the oncoming wrecking ball is absolutely the choice you need to make. And I'm not making that choice out of anything other than fear when I realize it's coming. But most decisions don't have to be made that quickly.
Yeah.
Now you don't want to languish in it though.
Right.
Because if you make them too slow, the decision's made for you and it's not usually the decision you would have made.
It's not what you want.
Yeah. Like I was talking to my sister about that. She's like, yeah, if I don't decide, if I waffle too much, then a decision is made and it's not usually the one I would have chosen.
That's a good point.
Like, yep, 100% true. So,
and I'm getting better at that because again, decisions were always made for me because I was an employee. I didn't get to make decisions. And it's just more for me, just doing it and trusting myself, like trusting my intuition and trusting that it's going to be okay. Even if I do make the wrong decision and I fail, it's okay. Like I'll be all right. I might not feel like I'm going to be all right, but tomorrow's going to come and we're going to figure out something else. So.
Yeah. A certain stoicism really helps. And I think it's something you have to develop.
Yes.
Like catastrophe has struck on the farm again, because it's going to.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, fiddlesticks. And you're in your feelings for a minute, and you're like, and now I have to deal with the fact that catastrophe has struck. It's just like yesterday. I had this wonderful plan to clean my whole house, and I was going to make meatballs and prepackage them and put them in the freezer. And I was going to pre-roast my coffee orders. What else was I going to do? I was going to deep clean that Subaru out there.
That's more than 3 things, Nicole.
I know, but I was just like, and I was going to catch up on laundry, and I was just going to like hang out and do a domestic day.
Right.
And it was going to be cold, so I wasn't going to work in the garden. And I got up that morning and had a cup of coffee. And I remember sending, I was like joking back and forth with Jack and David about how cold it was. And I was like, having a good time.
It's going to be a good day.
And I knew it had rained like a mofo all weekend. And usually that's not an issue. And then Tactical and I go to take on this 1-hour project of raking the dry hay out of the barn, which, that's not that hard.
No.
And there's a river running through the barn when we get there. And we needed that barn so that when it's single digits tomorrow night or the night after or whenever that's coming, it's Wednesday night, I think that hits, that the little baby sheep have better wind shelter than what we can give them on an open pasture. And I get down there expecting to like rake, shove, throw, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, I'm mucking like wet, sopping, poopy, muddy.
Boots are sinking this deep in the mud.
I'm like, my boots are still outside because I'm like, there's just so much on them. And it turned into the whole day. We were working on it on and off. And nothing on the list I just spewed out about all the things I'd love to do happened. And in former years, that would have defeated me. That would have been like, I had these plans. I'm not getting anything done.
Right.
Yeah. Instead, I'm like, well, Dawn, you're going to come to my house and it's not going to be super clean because I didn't clean it yesterday.
It's actually really clean.
It's not, it's better than it was before. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, though, because I had this mentality that when I retired, I was going to do all this baking and I was going to hang my clothes out on the laundry line and I was going to just, I was going to get so many domestic things done and I can't even keep my dishes done.
Yeah, you and me. And there's only 2 of us here.
Yeah. Well, there's 4 now, but yeah, it's funny how you have this, I'm going to do this and then all of these other things just kind of.
Well, and if you obsess on the what didn't get done, that's the same as poverty mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, but what did we get done? Was it a good work day? Did I give it my best? And am I happy
keep things
right
from
now?
dying?
Nothing died. Like we had a good dinner last night that involved everything left over in my fridge being thrown into one pot and heated, actually. So it's a very low effort meal, but it was delicious, actually. And whatever. It was fine.
That was actually why I made the decision to hire somebody for our evening milking, because I was spending all of this time milking and preserving and growing a garden and butchering chickens and putting all these, I have 4 freezers full of meat and pantries full of glass jars, and I couldn't get anything cooked for supper. We were running to Sonic.
Yeah. And you're like, but I have all that good food.
But I have all that stuff, but nothing's thought out.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that actually having an employee will get me back on task of at least some nights of the week getting things.
What do you have in your pantry right now?
Oh my gosh. All the vegetables you could think of.
Yeah.
And I have duck. I have chickens. I have turkeys. I'm going to have sheep when I get home. I have a beef that we just had processed.
Oh, that's right. You're picking up a sheep. That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. Yeah. I really wanted to diversify my freezers. That's why I'm adding more stuff. I've got salmon. I got all kinds of seafood in my freezers. So I've got anything that I want. It's just actually sitting down and making a plan to do it. I'm a every 6 months shopper. I don't, except for the little things that we need here and there. I have wheat berries. I have 150 pounds of sugar.
So you have all home preserved vegetables.
Yeah.
Frozen and canned, right?
Are you getting GPT to make me?
And you have beef. chicken. What else? Duck.
Duck.
Do you sell duck?
No, not yet. I'm going to. I have some pecans that I'm raising.
Did you put your deposits out yet for those? Okay.
No, because I haven't done it yet. I don't do that until I know I can do it.
Keep me in mind for that, because I want to buy ducks. I don't want to raise them for me.
Okay.
Yeah. What else? You have lamb. And Seafood. Make this available, scaled for a family of 4.
Yes.
Is there anything you guys do you have any food allergies?
No.
Anything you don't like at all?
No.
Okay. So this is fun. This was one. So I'm taking this challenge for using AI to learn more about it, because I feel like we have to keep up.
Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to learn too.
So
it's making me a meal plan?
Yeah. It may not be what you want, but
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm so not picky when it comes to food. So
yeah, I don't know that it understands what home preserved vegetables are. You could actually list specifics.
Yeah.
But at the end of last week, it was like, take a picture of what's in your pantry and tell it to make a meal plan from that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's your meal plan.
You'll have to shoot me that in an email.
With step-by-step directions. You have to read that with a grain of salt, but that's actually something when you've just come off of, and this is what I've noticed as a homesteader and just building freedom in your life. It takes some work.
It does.
And there are times I find it goes in cycles where you work really, really, really hard. You become exhausted, mentally exhausted. You get over a hump, and then you have time, but you're too freaking fried to do what you get back to normal. And so what I've noted, 2 things: building rest in has been really helpful, and actually staying true to my nutrition is helpful, and actually making myself exercise every day is really helpful. Like those things, even though it's even if it's just a 15-minute walk with the dogs.
Yeah.
With the phone turned on, pan-seared duck breast with garlic butter greens.
Oh my goodness. Yes, please.
Yeah. So it's still going, guys. But it can take me a month or 2 to get all of the mental fatigue out.
Yeah.
And so then a tool like this is helpful, because it's but what can I do with half an hour a day? Because I can do half an hour a day if you're not milking the cow. Homemade burgers on Saturday.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have told it to give you a ketogenic or paleo. It'll actually know. This is all carbs. But
my boys eat carbs.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't understand that you don't roast vegetables that are in jars, but that's okay.
Yeah.
My favorite green bean recipe is to boil them, because you have to boil them on the way out of the jar.
Right.
Drain them, and then throw a whole bunch of butter in there with spices, and it's just really buttery, but they are really squishy.
I kind of like mine squishy.
Yeah, I like them squishy too, but other people are like, ew, it's not al dente. I'm like, and it never will be if it comes out of a jar. It's all about stewed things at that point.
Yeah.
Or you can bake them in a casserole or something. I don't know. Put them in soup. Yeah. So I don't know. So it's give yourself a little bit of space.
Yeah.
For that. And then you can just hammer one thing. It's okay, so I've taken over this evening employee so I can have the lifestyle I want. What is that really? Is it, time with tea on the couch watching a show at night? Is it a meal and then just commit to 3 meals a week instead of 5? What does that look like?
It's probably because I have help 4 days a week. And so those are the nights that I'm going to make sure that we have, because I really like having dinner around the table as a family. That's important to me. And it's because Chase is going to be gone, very soon. He's a junior.
Right.
And those moments are moments that I want for me.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be at least my goal, 4 nights a week around the table. Because, because they also have wrestling and other commitments and things. But that's really what I want to get out of that.
Yeah.
And even if because it's costing me to have her every dime that I would be making in milk that night.
Right.
But to me, it's worth, because if I didn't do that, then my other option is to drop to once a day milking. which I would have to give up a bunch of customers who wouldn't get milk. And I would, to me, that's not an option because I don't want to hurt those families that are currently my customers.
Well, and if you are you're getting milk profits for half the day when you have the helper.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the other 3 days of the week, the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Is that more than when you were just doing once a day milking?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because I would lose a third of my milk if I dropped down to just once a day.
Yeah.
milking.
So, I mean, that makes sense if it's working for the lifestyle you want to build. And that's the part that's really hard to keep your eye on when you're building a business, is like, there's always a point where you have to push and you're just like working. But are you working towards having the lifestyle you want? Or are you working yourself into you can never stop and you don't get time with your family, which is not the point.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into a point where I hate it either.
Yeah.
Like where I feel resentment for what I'm having to do. Because before I hired somebody, I was starting down there at 6 a.m. and not getting up to the house until 9 o'clock at night. I didn't even step foot in my house until 9 o'clock at night. And I don't want to, that's not where I want my life to go.
No, that's hard.
It's too much. Too much.
Meanwhile, my dog walked by with a food package because she's apparently gotten into the garbage. Yeah, I just watched
Oh,
her.
nice.
Yeah, and if Tactical is listening, he should go get the plastic out of Chestnut's mouth. Here's what happened. We did that freezer audit, and I actually had a pile of things that were also not to be fed to dogs. And I'm guessing that the dogs found them anyway.
Oh well.
Oh, well. Anyway, it looks like we're about an hour in. We should probably wrap.
Sounds good.
What are the big lessons you've learned about just building freedom into your life?
One of the things that I have learned mostly is that being your own boss gives you a lot more responsibility, but it also gives you a lot more freedom to pivot when you want to pivot. Like if I have the option, if I wanted to pull back to once a day milk, I mean, it's just a lot more. It's a lot more forgiving in lifestyle. If I wanted to hire somebody to come and stay at my house for a week, I can take off and go whenever I want to. Having the ability to make my own choices and to, like you always say, design my life the way that I want it to be without anyone else's influence and anybody else's input except me and my husband and my family. There's just so much comfort in that I never had before. I've always been at the mercy of someone else dictating my life. If my kids were sick, I couldn't stay home with them. I couldn't go to be a room mom. I could, I miss so much. And now I don't feel like I have to, like I have the ability, like I can be present for the moments that I want to be present for, and I can make it happen. I can make it work.
Yeah. And I think that's the best part about building the life you choose on your terms is that, you can choose, and you know that there's a direct consequence if you blow off your job working for yourself for the day, whatever that consequence is. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's monetary. Sometimes it's just that a little bit more chaos comes onto your homestead, but you know what your trade-off is before you do it.
Yes.
And then you can be like, actually, my kid's more important than if I get the dishes done today.
Exactly.
Until later or until tomorrow or whatever. It's like dishes will always be there. So will laundry. Yeah.
Very much so.
It's also okay as a homesteader to use paper plates.
I actually kind of do that every once in a while.
Yeah, you should.
I do.
They compost. That was one of the funniest questions I ever asked. I was like, what advice do you have for homesteaders? I'm asking John Moody. You know who he is, right?
Yes.
He goes, it's okay to use paper plates. And I was like, that's actually really insightful piece of information.
To save yourself some time and some anguish.
And when the power goes out, paper plates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you don't have to be that much of a purist, guys. Just saying.
No, I've learned that.
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way.
We all have. All right. Well, guys, if you want to connect with Dawn, how do they do that?
I am at thegorhamhomestead.com. Occasionally I do the Keeping It Real podcast when I can work it into my day. It's not my priority.
She needs to do it from her car.
It's more of something that I do is just documenting my journey in case my grandchildren someday want to know a little bit about their Mimi and how I lived. That's kind of how I look at it. And my email is info@thegorhamhomestead.com. If you have any questions, if you ever want to get a milk cow and just want some advice on taking that journey, that's what I love. And just feel free to reach out to me. I'll be there to answer questions.
Yeah, I love hearing. And is Dixon a really cool food culture and homesteader culture?
Yeah, before we go. So I have found that in Dixon that there actually is a lot of food producers who are on the more natural scale. There's some grass-fed beef, there's pastured poultry, that now we have raw milk. There's me and probably 3 other producers for raw milk in Dixon. There's a huge homeschool community that is just very vibrant. They're great kids, great families. We have functional medicine. We have Dr. Hans. We have all of the things that a freedom-minded person is looking for in Dixon. And we are doing a local food directory so that anyone in the Dixon County area or surrounding, like the Western Middle Tennessee area, if they're looking for something specific, that'll be in the directory. And I've had lots and lots of interest and lots of people send me their listings for that. So looking forward to getting that out there for people who are looking for local food.
When does that directory turn into your food cooperative?
I would actually love to do that. I've thought about, because I have the space on my property, I would love to have a store that I could showcase other people's stuff and make it just be where people could come and get coffee or, maple syrup and all of. I'm working on it. It's in my mind. It's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, we're working on that here too. When I listened, so the Voluntarist Society of Chattanooga, so Josh from there, they put together, I don't know if it's a private membership association or ministry association, but they put together a PMA of some sort where they have a place where people can, I don't know if they pay a membership fee or how, I'm sure they do. They have access to then local food sources. And he does bring stuff from out of the area in, like in a shared buy situation. And it's pretty cool, but it's 2.5 hours from here.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, well, we need to have, like, that model is now up and working. We need to learn from that.
Yes.
And start having those at our communities. Whatever state you're in, the law is going to be a little bit different on how you implement that, but in different states, in different counties in Tennessee. And I have like the capacity here I'm already a hub for other things.
Yes.
So I was like, how do I get that done here without losing my mind?
It's a lot having people come to your house every day.
I'd love to see. Well, and that's the thing. I'd like to have something that's not coming to my house every day. It's like over there. You know what I mean? Like right at the bottom of that hill or at the bottom of the hill down that way or whatever. But that there is a place that they can, so that we can be a hub. And then Boontop Farms just started doing that feed. We have their feed for the first time. We picked it up last week.
Nice.
So we're feeding the ducks. It's a peanut-based protein, soy-free.
Okay.
With no fish emulsion in it.
Okay.
And so we'll see how that goes. I'll see what the egg production does. But I've been wanting to have a peanut-based feed for like 5 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
I wondered if that's where y'all were going.
Oh yeah, I was like, I'm going to Boone, and we're like, if you ever get a lot of people in more, because we're 2 hours away.
Right.
If you ever get more people here, we could totally figure out how to store, like to do pickup days this day, and we'll just do a huge truck over here. So we'll see how it goes. But back to the paper plates before we launch off.
Yeah.
Get the ones that are not wax coated, guys, and not plastic, and you literally can compost those. Like you're returning it
the
to
good
the
old fashioned 80s.
Yeah, like I have. Well, and it's like the thick chinette sort of stuff.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Unbleached. That's what I use, and it does literally go in my compost pile. So, if you're struggling with the like ethics of it, there you go. Yeah, not the thin ones that fall apart.
I got you.
That you need. Well, I mean, you can with the little framey thing. The wicker,
the wicker. We had those in the 80s.
Yeah, we had those too. You can still buy those.
I think I probably still have some.
Yeah,
in my cabinet somewhere.
Yeah, so if you want to connect with Dawn and you're in or around Dixon or not in or around Dixon, definitely do. She puts out some great content on Facebook, and she's, as she said, a great resource for owning a milk cow. I feel like you should do a membership webinar here about that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
We'll get that on the schedule. And yeah, it's, I mean, I love working with you on the Self-Reliance Festival too, but
we have a good time.
I'm just glad you came out to visit me today. So that was kind of fun. Anyway, if you like the show and want to produce the work I'm doing here, you can support it in 2 ways. One, get your coffee at hollaroast.com. Soon to be in the local food directory, right?
Absolutely.
I'll give you information for that. And you can also become a member. Find out more about that at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.